Washington and WBAI New York. I'm Chris Bangert-Drowns. Thanks for listening.
Whoop, tap, 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 whap, bop, tap, tap, tap. Rosemary in the bag and tied around my neck for my protection. I'm walking around, big old sack on my back, coming in your direction. What kind of tea do you like? I got it. I'm the medicine man, herb from the land, yeah. Oh, I'm the herb man, come see me. Oh, I'm the herb man, you all come see me. See, rosemary, calm your nerves, got peppermint leaf to get rid of my fever. I keep periwinkle to get some love now. Oh, I gotta hug me close to make my backbone strong. Gold cola tonic for my blood, and dandelion for my bones, y'all. Alkali to keep away flies. Hot lady cayenne for my pressure. Oh, I'm the herb man, come see me. Oh, I'm the herb man, you all come see me. Get the children out the way now. No, you can't smoke this, sir. This is for salad. Yes, salad. Herb man, herb man, herb man.
And good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Theodore Watkins, and welcome to another program of To Your Health. We're excited to be with you today, and we have a special program today. This is National Diabetes
Diabetes Month.
Diabetes Month, yeah, Awareness Month, and so we have someone who can help us with our awareness of diabetes and other problems with high blood sugar. And his name is Dr. Ken Redcross, and Dr. Redcross has his medical degree from Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center in New York City. He specialized in internal medicine. He went to Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and did fellowships, learning to serve underprivileged and enhance his fluency in Spanish to the medical community. And so we're excited to have him here. And today we want to talk about blood sugar. Diabetes, as you know, is the number 7th leading cause of death in this country. Yes, the number 1 cause of blindness, amputation, kidney failure in whites, number 2 in blacks. So that diabetes has I say that it maims and then it disables and then it kills its victims. So it is a very something that we need to talk about more. But what got you interested in this thing of elevated blood sugar and diabetes?
Thanks for having me on, Dr. Ted. I always love being on your show because we talk about such important topics. So thank you again. Look, everyone, I wanted to kind of come on your radio waves today because when you deal with blood sugar, diabetes, and for 96 million of you out there who are riding in your car or listening now that may not know your blood sugar is elevated, this is something that we could do something about, Dr. Ted. We just have to know about it. We need to understand what it looks like, how it feels, and when we get it or have a challenge, how we can manage it. And so it was more important, especially now during the holiday season. We just passed Halloween. We're going towards Thanksgiving and going to Christmas. And these are some sugary holidays. So this was a perfect time to talk about it.
So now, since diabetes, I've read some things where up to a half the adult population in this country have diabetes or pre-diabetes. But as you said, so many of them don't know. Why are we so ignorant about something that's so important? Or is it important? Are we just overblowing it?
Well, that's a good question as well. It is, guys. So it is nowhere near overblown. In fact, it's bigger than we all think. When we're dealing with diabetes, we always talk, or I should say, an elevated blood sugar. We always go to diabetes, but let's recognize, Dr. Ted, you also get heart attacks, strokes, kidney disease, the blindness, all these issues due to a little molecule of glucose or sugar. And so it's not being overblown. So I don't know if it's a full ignorance per se, Dr. Ted. I'm always a positive guy, so I'll never frame it as that. I'll just say that we just need to make sure that we educate ourselves more. And we'll talk a little bit today about some things that are important, but you got to educate for your health. We do this thing called life one time, Dr. Ted. So it's important to try to get it right.
I'm walking around, my sugar is elevated.
Yep.
How do I feel?
You don't feel so hot. You're going to feel probably 3 or 4 of the symptoms that I'll mention. Number one, well, I'll tell you all: fatigue, increased urination, increased thirst, blurred vision. Those are some of the big ones. And so I hope as you guys hear some of these symptoms, you don't blow them off. Yes, it's during the holiday season. Yes, we're tired and we're fatigued, but this is a different type of fatigue. This is a fatigue to when you get home, you're done work, and you're still not feeling yourself. You're kind of stuck in the mud. You don't know exactly what's going on. This shouldn't be blown off.
So is it that these things sort of come gradually on us, that we blow it off, we ignore it, as you say, or what is it? Why is it that we don't, beat the door down? Doc, I'm tired,
Yeah.
My mouth is dry. I'm jumping up half the night, urinating.
Right.
What's going on?
Right. Well, look, that's a two-pronged answer, I should say. Look, number one, it's not making sure that all of you are looking in the mirror at the number one person that's the most important, really taking value in your health and what you mean to this world. The second part of that question or issue is that you got to make sure that you have a good relationship with your doctor. You have to make sure you know who you can pick up the phone and say, hey, doc, it's a little weird. I've been getting up 4 times a night. I'm all thirsty. I can't drink and feel like my thirst is satiated. What's going on with that? But Dr. Ted, you got to have a connection with somebody to be able, in the medical community, to be able to kind of hit on some of these things that we're talking about today.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't have that relationship. The system was already broke, and it's getting brokener, more broke, worse off. Yeah. Because I think one of the problems is that large corporations are taking over medical practices.
Yeah.
And so patients don't really have that doctor-patient relationship that they used to. Now, it was a problem when we did have it.
Yeah, right.
But now that we're losing that, it's even more of a problem, So these warning signs that your sugar is it could be too high. We don't know what it is. Right. We need to get what? Checked.
Got to get checked. And that's that big take home. So if there's anything you guys get today as you're listening to me here with Dr. Ted, is you get yourself checked. You're the most important person out there. And until you get your blood tested, we don't know what's going on under the hood of that car.
But to test me, they gotta stick me with that needle, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry to tell you. So look, as people tell me that and they get worried about the needle, let me tell you, if we don't manage diabetes well and what it can lead to, there's going to be a lot more needles coming at you that you don't want to. So this one simple blood test to allow us to kind of nip it in the bud early, at least a diagnosis and a direction, is something that you want to do.
you talk about needles. You talk about sticking yourself, giving yourself insulin every day. That's one kind of needle. Mm-hmm. But we Thanksgiving is a time through our church. In our church, we have people give testimonials, of things. And this one guy got up a few years ago and talking about how the doctor was sticking him in the eye with needles on a regular basis, giving him shots, in his eye because of his diabetes, because he had bleeding, retinal bleeding, and that's the way they were treating it, and so when we talk about needles, one little needle to draw your blood can save you from having many other needles. So I tell my patients there's some test results they need to know. There's certain numbers they need to know. Mm-hmm. The blood sugar and the hemoglobin A1C is a number that they need to know. What is that hemoglobin A1C, and why do they need to know it, and what should it be?
So what Dr. Ted's referring to, everyone, that hemoglobin A1C is a measure of the amount of blood sugar on your actual red blood cells over a 3-month interval. So that gives us a little snapshot. It lets us know what you've been doing at home all this time. It's funny. I joke around with my patients because if I see I see him 3 months later, we get an A1C. They tell me, "Oh, doc, I've been doing everything right. That A1C doesn't lie. It tells me what's been going on for that past 3 months." So I look at the labs and I look at them and say, "Are you sure?" And I always get a coming to Jesus moment. And they're like, all right.
Maybe I've been cheating a little bit.
Exactly. Maybe a little something here and there. But the point is that A1C is important, Dr. Ted, because once again, once you get going, once we start doing the things that are right, it steers us in a good direction to know, all right, we're going the right direction now, if it doesn't look the way we want it to look initially when we check it.
So why is it the what we used to call the fasting blood sugar or the 2-hour postprandial?
Yep.
Why aren't they sufficient?
Well, I'll tell you this, Doctor. So they're not necessarily insufficient. They're one of the better ways, everyone, to maybe get diagnosed. So in other words, if you're going to go there and you're going to go fasting to your doctor, you will get that fasting test. So it's a little bit for diagnosis. That A1C is great for sometimes diagnosis, but also monitoring. So they provide some different things. But once again, you're getting the point in that you don't get a chance to know this information, which it really is life-saving, quite frankly, if you just get one blood test, know where we are, know where we need to head, but we don't know really what to do and what can be fixed until we know what we're dealing with.
I start doing hemoglobin A1C on any patient, especially if they're obese.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I do a hemoglobin A1C on them.
Absolutely.
Because I want to know exactly what's happening. I also look at something called the GFR.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I interested in the GFR?
So
Commercial filtration rate.
Yeah. So everyone, when you think about the kidneys, look, most of us have 2 kidneys. We're supposed to. And it really lets us know how your kidneys are filtrating each and every day, filtrating our blood and proteins and things in our body. And it gives us an eye into your health. But the health of your kidneys are extremely important. As you mentioned before at the top of the segment, Dr. Ted, one of the number 1 causes of dialysis or kidney failure is diabetes. And so when we look at that GFR has a special number that lets us know how well your kidneys are filtrating or how well they aren't. And so that's something else, you're right, that should be a part of any blood panel as you start to get assessed for routine exams.
So here we have people with high blood sugars.
Yep.
And these high blood sugars can lead, and often do lead, to kidney failure.
Yeah.
And that hemoglobin A1C helps us catch it early.
There you go.
So something can be done.
That's the key. It's always about early. Look, at anything that we're dealing with, everyone. That's why, it's interesting. I always tell patients, I never give bad news. These are things that come up that we need to have tweaked and changed and that sort of thing. But there's never bad news. But the point is, one of the best ways to circumvent that, to even have that discussion, is to get in early so we can see what we're dealing with.
So how often do? Well, let me back up.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of patient, are you most concerned about having an elevated blood sugar? Who is more likely to have one?
Well, I'll tell you this. One of the important things you mentioned just before is about the obese patient, right? We here in America, 3/4 of us are not in the right range, obese or overweight. The point is that our
3/4.
Yeah.
That's 75%, man.
Oh yeah, because don't forget, there's categories of obese, there's categories of overweight. These are important because the body doesn't like to be out of balance, and especially when it comes to blood sugar. When you have increased weight, guess what? The insulin circulates the body, but it doesn't really recognize the sugar that's circulating as well. So the insulin's there, it's just not working as well because of the weight. And so if I ever see a patient that's obese or overweight, they're already getting an A1C. We know that there's also certain ethnicities, whether it be Latino or whether it be African American or Native American, also at an increased risk and rate to make sure that we're getting screened as well. So look, there are some important things to make sure that we are recognizing that we're at risk for, but you can't do that unless you come in and get a good relationship with a physician or a practitioner to make sure you're getting these lab tests, and let's start staying healthy and getting healthy.
Now, this is a little off subject, but maybe not. I was talking to one of my patients called me to talk to one of his relatives this week or last week, that had a tummy tuck, and they took off about 10 pounds or so. She said, and I said, so what is your weight? And she said, I'm down to about 245 now. I said, okay, so so how tall are you? You know, and she told me. I said, okay, so your ideal body weight is like 140 to 150. Oh no. I want to get down to 220.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she was a little perturbed at me, but telling her, no, that is not where you need to be. Mm-hmm. You need to be at your ideal. Why is it that our community, and I don't know if it's in all communities, but I see it so much in our community.
Mm-hmm.
We are so misinformed, or we feel so strongly about carrying an extra 50, 60, 70 pounds of weight or more. In her case, it was about 80 pounds extra that she wanted to carry.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about that, that you see?
You know, it's tough. You're right. It's important in our community. And when you look back, you look back 200-300 years, it's different, right? When you look at what healthy looks like for us, or what we talk about, what do we say? You got to put some meat on your bones. Or, you don't look healthy. You look tiny. You're not eating. So much of our lives and the way we eat has been kind of circled or around weight. And I think, believe it or not, Dr. Ted, I think that's starting to change a little bit as we're understanding the importance of weight and blood sugar, weight and hypertension, weight and heart attacks, weight and strokes. Hopefully, and I've been seeing it there's a little bit of a movement to kind of get out, move our bodies, and understand what the importance of exercise and a couple of things we can talk about today can play in order for keeping us on this earth longer and in a healthy state.
This is Dr. Theodore Watkins. The program is To Your Health. My guest today is Dr. Ken Redcross. Dr. Redcross is an internist. He's an author. He has a concierge service I mean, he's a bad brother, and we're so happy to have him on with us today. We're focusing primarily on this thing of high blood sugar, but as you can see, because it touches so many areas, we are touching various areas. So give us a call with any question or comment that you may have. The number is 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. Give us a call with any questions or comments that you might have. So, Dr. Redcross.
Yes, sir.
This thing of blood sugar. What's the problem? I'm a little older than you. I know, but back in the day, they said that the problem was we didn't have enough insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're doing these insulin assays, and we find that it's not that we don't have enough insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, we actually have too much insulin. And as you said, the insulin is circling around in the bloodstream, but it can't do anything. It's impotent. It's impotent. There's resistance at the cellular wall. Why is this?
Yeah, it's because those adipose cells. So adipose cells, guys, are just
adipose.
Scientific. Yep, adipose tissue is just a nice way to say fat cells, guys.
Oh, Lord.
So you sound smart by calling it adipose. That's what I'm trying to do. So those fat cells that are there, they just do not recognize that circulating insulin. And so when that happens, you have someone like Dr. Ted and I are mentioning that has plenty of insulin, but that sugar doesn't know where to go. So that sugar circulates and damages things. And so that's the big issue. And that's why weight is such an important thing to make sure that we focus upon.
The number, once again, the number is 202-588-0893, 202-588-0893. Give us a call with your question or comment. We're going to quickly go to the phone. Just call her. You're on the line.
Oh, yes, Dr. Watkins. I have a question, and thank you for taking my call. And I'm just coming into the program. Who is the doctor that's present?
Dr. Ken Redcross.
Dr. Ken Redcross.
Redcross, just like the American.
Oh, okay. All right, I have a question. My husband's 73 years old.
Okay.
And he has a history of diabetes in his family. Both of his parents and 4 brothers all had diabetes. Right now, his hemoglobin A1C is 6.1. He has fasting blood sugar of 118. Should he or I be concerned?
A good question. So as I talk everyone about those 90 million people that I mentioned at the top of the segment, Dr. Ted, that don't know their blood sugar is elevated, this is a person that's already gone. They have the A1C. They are borderline. They are borderline at this point. So the discussion for that particular person or the caller's husband would be to make sure that we're dealing with 3 important things to make sure that, number one, we're seeing some of the things that are being eaten. I always talk on the nutrition side, everyone, because food is medicine. So I talk about avoiding some of the white foods, white bread, white rice, white pasta. The second thing, which this particular caller's husband could really do well with, is if there is a little bit of an exercise regimen. I'm not talking about you have to go out and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, everyone. I'm talking about a brisk walk. The study showed it. Even a walk that was only 2 minutes served you well for being able to do that, not only for lowering blood sugar, but also increasing that insulin resistance. In other words, making sure that your body saw that insulin circulating and started to drive that sugar in.
Now, he is an avid exerciser. We both get out and try to walk at least an hour a day, and he also does yoga. So
beautiful, and that's the other part.
That's not an issue.
All right, beautiful. Because
so diet is probably the key thing with him. What is his weight?
He is an avid exerciser. We both get out and try to walk at least an hour.
I need you to cut your radio off, caller, and
issue.
All right, beautiful. Because so diet is probably the key thing with him. What is his weight?
I think 170 something.
So see, that's not necessarily bad. I don't know how tall he is, but that's not necessarily bad at all. And so he can continue to balance.
Okay.
Caller,
I think
caller,
170 plus.
Yes, caller, cut your radio off and get the feedback.
Okay. Thank you.
And then the other thing I should mention as well. So on the natural side of healing, there are some things that can help support blood sugar. They don't necessarily treat blood sugar, but they support. One of them is a bark from the golden seal. It's called berberine. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have.
Oh, you have. See, so berberine I like because the study showed not only did berberine decrease the blood sugar, but it also helped with that cholesterol, because it's usually a blood sugar and cholesterol story together. And so when you're thinking of things to support blood sugar, kind of where your husband is, right in that middle zone, something like a berberine would be important to at least look at and learn. Now, the next question people say, well, where do you get your berberine? Because you can't get that out of your diet as much. And so I like a company called Healthy Directions. I know people go to other places where they can kind of walk in, whether it's a GNC or what have you. I just mentioned Healthy Directions, Dr. Ted, because I know they've done the studies, and I also know that they have the right dosage. It should be 1,500 milligrams is what your dosage for berberine should be. So it's just nice to talk about some other things that can support this kind of journey we're going to. But I am happy that your husband is only borderline there and he's doing a lot of the things that he needs to. So who knows? Maybe berberine kind of gets him to that area where he wants to get to.
I would like to add, though, caller, is that, your husband is what we call pre-diabetic.
Right.
Pre-diabetic, all right? Between 5.7 and 6.4 is pre-diabetes. But the problem is that the complications that we talked about, the kidney failure, the blindness, the problem with the legs start in the pre-diabetic phase. And so it's important to do what Dr. Redcross is talking about, exercising, using other supplements, and based on what his weight is, get him in the ideal weight class, because that will really make a difference. And then, of course, watch the diet and make sure you get the fat out of the diet and the refined foods out of the diet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he doesn't have a cholesterol problem. Actually, he's I think his cholesterol is 132, and he's very slender, and he just had about
kidney
stone. I'm sorry.
Is he on medication? But
no, he's not. The only medication he takes is eye drops. So
okay, very good.
Good. And let's make sure too with that cholesterol panel. I always tell everyone, remember, there's 3 types of cholesterol. I call them the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of them, one of the parameters can be okay, but we want to make sure that that LDL, the one that I told you that the berberine supports, we want to make sure that that's within a reasonable range. And so just to make sure, and to what Dr. Ted mentioned at the top of the segment when we were talking, make sure you know what his kidney function looks like.
Okay, he just had a kidney stone episode, so all righty, and it seems that it's back to normal. Well, I appreciate you taking all the time to answer my question. Thank you so much. And what's Dr. Redcross's number?
We'll give it to
all right. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you.
Thank you. Have a blessed Thanksgiving.
And you as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Once again, the number is 202-588-0893, 202-588-0893. Let's go back to our phones. Just caller, you're on the line. Yes, caller?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hi there.
Okay, and yourself?
Fine, fine. Question or comment?
My concern, I'm getting ready to go for full checkup next week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in the past several years, they used to do it with the blood, and they come back with about 15 different tests that was taken.
Mm-hmm.
And now, in the last year or two, they have cut that down to only 5 checkups. So what I would like to know, maybe 5 or 7 different tests I should make, suggest to them that I would like for them to do for my blood when I go next week.
Do you have any medical issues?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I can tell you what I order for my patients in general. Well, how tall are you and how much do you weigh?
Okay, I'm like 5'9" and 167 pounds.
Okay, so good weight. And do you have any health challenges?
No.
Not on any medication?
No.
Okay, all right. So a good thing I would recommend is comprehensive metabolic profile.
Right.
CBC, that's the complete blood count, your lipid panel, and
his cholesterol panel.
Yeah, that's the lipid panel. Yeah, the cholesterol, lipid panel. Those would be the main things. If you were overweight, I would do the hemoglobin A1C. But since you're not, I don't know that I would do it on you. I would see what the blood sugar is and then go from there. So those were the things that I would test. And if your doctor is not giving you the comprehensive thing that you think you need to fire your doctor and find you someone else.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot. Those were the concerns that I had.
Good.
Dr. Redcross, did I give him right?
You did. Another one that's big for me. So Dr. Ted and I are on the same page there. Another one that's important to me, especially in and I'm not quite sure where you're from, but especially in the minority realm, is our vitamin D levels.
Oh yes.
To know what our vitamin D levels actually are. Vitamin D is important, everyone. Especially during the coronavirus epidemic and so forth. We saw that a lot of the cases that didn't do so well, the vitamin D level was pretty low. And so this is not a political debate or anything. We just know that vitamin D is important for our immunity. So I always like to make sure that on an annual, a vitamin D level could be drawn as well.
I used to do vitamin D on all of my patients. I stopped. And the reason I stopped, because if they weren't taking vitamin D, I know it's low.
I know. Yeah. So you understand what Dr. Ted means, everyone. So that's exactly the point. So that also argues the point that vitamin D is that important that most of us listening should be on it.
Yeah. It's going to be low, and then I put them on it, and then once they get on it for about a month or so, then I have them come back and take it, because I've not seen, I don't believe one patient not taking vitamin D. And I don't know if you have any theories as to why everybody suddenly got low vitamin D.
Yeah, a couple. I have a couple to throw out
but
there.
I'm telling you, I see it. Everybody got it.
Yeah. It's a universal problem. It's an epidemic as far as the vitamin D deficiency that we're seeing. We're seeing that we've been inside with COVID for a couple of years, so we're not getting the sun's rays. Was one reason. Another one is that there's not a lot of vitamin D in our diet that's not fortified. Milk doesn't count because vitamin D is added to milk. You get the elderly who also, once again, are not necessarily going out as well. And so it's not so easy to have vitamin D when you can't get it in your diet. Fatty fish livers and so forth have it, but I don't know about you, Dr. Ted. I don't know a lot of people.
I don't recommend that.
There you go. So there's a couple of good reasons why, like you said, Dr. Ted, whether you're getting it checked on your exam like this caller or taking it, it's important to make it a part of your kind of supplement regimen.
It's critically important because vitamin D impacts so many areas, and your bones, everything. I mean, we're deficient. I have a patient that comes to see me from Trinidad every year, Doc, and she walks about an hour a day, at least 5 days a week.
Wow.
She has to take vitamin D in order to keep that D level up. And so it's just it's really something that's critical, and we need to be aware of it. So
could I just say I do take the vitamin D.
Okay.
I take
how much?
I would have to go to my medical cabinet.
Okay.
All right.
I'll tell you this: the studies that showed the kind of the best bang for your buck with vitamin D3 was 5,000 international units. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
So just food for thought.
and I take the B12.
Okay, and that depends.
That's good. Those are two vitamins that I would recommend on a regular basis. I'm not a big vitamin person.
Right.
Vitamin D, especially if you're vegetarian. Vitamin D12, and probably even vitamin B12.
B12, right?
And even vitamin B complex. Because it helps with so many other areas.
Okay. Okay. Well, listen. I really appreciate the information you're giving me, and I feel better going to my checkup next week.
Good.
So Dr. Ken.
Yes, sir.
Can diabetes? We talked about how terrible it is. Can it be prevented? Is it preventable?
You know what? I have to answer that with, I'm going to give you I think you're in D.C., Dr. Ted, so I'm going to give you a politician's answer. Yes and no. I'm not going to put my penny down. No. I'll tell you this, guys. So yes and no, and I really mean that because there's two types of diabetes. There's type 1, type 2. Type 1 tends to be younger, and that tends to have a little more of a genetic predisposition. Type 2, sure, which is 90% of diabetes, absolutely you can make a difference. Back to those three things, those couple of things that I mentioned. You're making sure that diet is right. And I don't mean diet like weight loss, ladies and men, I should say, because I don't like that diet word. What I mean is making sure you're careful about what you're bringing in and marrying that with exercise. You can absolutely prevent and treat diabetes.
So be a little bit more specific in terms of the kinds of foods you would recommend.
So one thing I always talk about, everyone, is balance and homeostasis, we call it in medicine. So I'm talking about your carbs, your proteins, and your fats. When you're talking about carbs, that's where we get in trouble here in America in particular. We don't realize that carbs are sugars, and they come in complex sugars, whether they're pasta, those white foods I mentioned before, white bread, pasta. Those are things that we want, and white rice, we should really dial back on. When you're looking for better sources of carbs, I always talk about the importance of beans, which are slow digesting complex carbs. Hugely important. When you think about your fats, you don't want to get your fats, everyone, from meats necessarily. Think about things like avocado, things that I didn't necessarily grow up with in the South, down in Virginia. I didn't grow up with that, but recognize now the importance of avocados, the importance of nuts, the importance of seeds. Look, there's a way that this stuff can be dolled up, so I promise it tastes good. I know that's part of the thing I get with my patients. Say, Doc, that sounds like bird food. That sounds like, and it can be dolled up to when it can be healthy. And when you are eating meat, it needs to be lean meat. And we get to something, Dr. Ted, that we haven't touched on, which is portion size. The portion size can be so key to really help you get the best bang for your buck when you're trying to treat diabetes, everyone. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah. I think you're hitting on some very important things. Of course, I push my patients to go whole plant.
Yeah, plant-based. I hear you.
If you're not going to do it, or if you're not ready to do it right now, you need to dial back. You need to cut back. You need to make sure that you're getting quality foods, and most of your foods you get the right side of the store. When you come in, most grocery stores, it seems like when you come in on the right side is the produce. Right. You need to be shopping in that produce section first, and stock up on that because it makes a difference, and prevention is critical. Most people, when they come in, their sugar is way out of whack. They not argue with me on what to eat, Doc. Whatever I tell them, they just want to get rid of it. When the doctor tells them they're going to have to go on dialysis, they not argue with me about what foods to eat. No, you're right. What we need to do is we need to prevent, so that we don't get to the point where we have to, sort of are forced to make changes. And I love to eat. Oh yeah, you and me both. When I was in school, when the cafeteria door opened, Weenie walked in.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. I think I was a lot like you. And, the other thing with some of my folks who are out there with diabetes, and, I just want everybody to realize, it's not your fault and it's not your fate. I say that a lot because there's a lot of guilt around diabetes, and am I really eating this? Am I not eating right? No, this isn't about a guilty thing. So it's not your fault. And more importantly, let's recognize it's not your fate. There's some things that we can do about it. And hopefully today, as we talk about this, we picked up some folks that are going to get some blood tests checked and now know what their sugar's like. Maybe, look into berberine or healthy directions, places where you can look for studies, or some of the whole food places in your areas where you can learn about some things closer to the earth that can help support your blood sugar.
You mentioned that berberine, and there was a very interesting study. I believe it was collaborated with the National Institutes of Health that showed that berberine not only help bring the blood sugar down, but and the cholesterol, as you mentioned, but it also helps to rebuild the islets of Langerhans.
Yeah.
Islets of Langerhans. Why is that important, Doc?
And so those islets that Dr. Ted's talking about, those are the way a place in the pancreas that creates the insulin, where it comes from. And so you want to make sure that those are healthy, robust, and ready to go. And it probably speaks to, and not probably, it speaks to why, berberine is special. Just like with anything you take supplement-wise, do your research. Make sure that you know your source you're getting it from, and that the bioavailability is there. That just means that when you take it, it's absorbed and goes to where it's supposed to.
That it's not in your urine, that's going to your urine.
There you go. And then it's just a nice urine supplement. That's not what you want. And so that's why I mentioned. So you make sure whether you're going to your Whole Foods, or whether I'm going to Healthy Directions, or whether you're going to GNC, if they even have it, make sure that you look at the studies, make sure that there's 1,500 milligrams of the berberine there. That was the sweet spot to get some of the benefits that you mentioned, Dr. Ted. So just make sure that you're talking.
I was reading some of your materials, and you mentioned also another herb that's very important, cinnamon.
Oh, so cinnamon is interesting. So when I mentioned that berberine is a bark, everyone, the other bark that you guys all know is cinnamon, especially during the holidays. And when I say you guys, I don't mean just men. I'm talking to my women too. So forgive me there. But what I'm saying there is that cinnamon's been shown once again to have some benefits to help support our blood sugar. Now, keep in mind, cinnamon and berberine do not treat blood sugar. It helps to support the normal levels, the normal kind of balance of blood sugar. So cinnamon's something else that's, even if you kind of sprinkle it on your pie, you don't get enough of it. So it's one of those things too, Dr. Ted, where you have to kind of supplement that, which gets back again to making sure you understand the source of where you're looking at your supplements.
So we're getting ready to head into the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some special things that people need to look at? What's the relationship holiday season and folks' health? You said a little bit earlier, but hit it a little harder for us.
Well, look, when you're talking about your overall health in general, I get back to the importance of, I always talk about the patient-doctor bond, everyone. And for you, all of you listening.
Oh, by the way, Dr. Ken wrote a book entitled The Bond. All right.
Yeah.
But go ahead. We'll hit that a little bit more momentarily. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just mentioning to everyone out there that with my passion being here today, as far as I'm concerned, for this past 50 minutes, all of you are my patients, and I want you to feel cared for and taken care of. And so that's why we're here talking about the importance of blood sugar, and recognizing it's not just a diabetes story, but it's a heart story, a brain story, and that we need to get on top of it and focus on that person in the mirror. You're the most important. And to making sure that you take this journey, this beautiful health journey that we've all been so blessed with, but let's do it in a healthy way and educate ourselves along the way.
So if someone wanted to contact you and get more information, some more of these practical points that you're making, how would they do that?
So they can go to my website, which is drkenredcross.com, or better yet, you can even reach out to me on the social media handles. It's a little easier, whether it's Instagram or Facebook is a common media that people reach out. And you just reach out to me there, and I make it a point to get back to everyone personally. Any way that I can help and support is kind of what I do as a concierge physician, Dr. Ted. I take care of a lot of folks that just call me and just want to be a part of my practice where I just answer questions and help support folks.
So social media, Dr. Ken, K-E-N, Redcross.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. And your website was what?
drkenredcross.com.
drkenredcross.com. So make sure we reach out to him. We've talked about this blood sugar thing, and I did a talk one time, and I talked about just a little sugar. I got a little sugar.
Right.
People say I got a little sugar,
right.
but this little sugar is dangerous.
Yeah.
And we need to be aware. And I'm hoping that as people listen today, they'll recognize that a little sugar can become a big lump of sugar.
There you go. You said it better than even I say it on that, Dr. Ted, because don't blow it off as just normal. I've had families where, the grandmother has, lost her limb, or the grandmother, as you mentioned before, is on dialysis, and they just think it's almost something that's got to happen, as if it's that fate. That's why I say it's not your fate when dealing with blood sugar diabetes to think, as people will say, that, oh, well, that's just what I'm going to go through. That's just the way it is. I'm here to tell you that's not the way it is. And if we're talking today together, remember, for the next couple of minutes, you all are still my patients. This isn't going to happen to you, right? Because we're going to get our blood tested, and we're going to make sure we get on this stuff early.
Now you focus your book, the bond. It was developing the relationship. What is it? The four cornerstones of a lasting
caring relationship with your
caring
doctor.
relationship with your doctor.
Absolutely.
What's those four cornerstones, right quick?
Look, it's the important thing that all of you deserve when you see your doc: trust, respect, empathy, and communication. And with all of those, trust, respect, empathy, and communication, those cornerstones are necessary.
Because if you don't trust them,
then what
you're not going to listen.
Then what are we doing then, right?
I'm telling you. But I'm really appreciative of what you're saying. So you seem to you sort of want to get some balance in there.
Yeah.
In that relationship, and then carry the people to where they need to go.
That's exactly right. And I always say the whole key with the relationship when I'm doing this, because this is a lot of what I do on the concierge side when I just do quick consultations. It's about better healthcare outcomes. When I know we're connected like this, Dr. Ted, like we are now, and listening to here with the listeners, there's better healthcare outcomes. You now have a medical advocate in me. You have peace of mind because you know I got your back. And then you recognize you're going to be educated and empowered. All of that's important to make sure that in this life experience that we're all living right now, that it's as great and as best as it can be.
We just have a few minutes left. This concierge medicine, what is that? I mean, I hear the big boys talk about concierge medicine. Is that for anyone, everyone?
That's a good question. So concierge medicine, everyone had kind of traditionally started as what felt like more elite medicine, that it wasn't for everyone. And, while I'll take care of some folks who are entertainers or athletes and so forth, I changed my concierge so that it encompassed everyone, as many souls as I can. So therefore, that concierge medicine, everyone, provides access, convenience, and the time that you need to understand what the heck's going on with you. So I have kind of set it up, Dr. Ted, to when I can get everyone covered. to be able to do it that way. But that's what concierge medicine is, everyone. It's really healthcare on your terms. And that's the key, coming to you to make sure that you're kept healthy and whole.
How can you do that in this modern approach to medicine where it's becoming almost like a factory?
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of the things I always kind of focus on, and, I've been very, very fortunate and blessed in my life of 20 years of practice and growing, and that, things just come together. So I've been able to be on my own since, good gosh, several years at this point, out of a medical group, everyone, when I've been able to give enough to patients, enough that's all I need to keep me happy, and I just get provided for. It just works.
All right. So I want we're getting close to the end here,
okay.
But I want you to give that information again as to where they can reach you. Also, once again, give us the name of your book and where they can get the book. Is it still in print?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Let us know what's happening.
All right, guys. So once again, my name is Dr. Ken Redcross, and it's the same whether you go to my website or you go to any of the social media handles. So Instagram, Facebook, it's Dr. Ken Redcross. My book is called Bond: The 4 Cornerstones of a Lasting and Caring Relationship with Your Doctor. It is on Amazon. It was #1 the first week in medicine and psychology.
All right, now
I was very proud of that because it's about that relationship and the behavior, and that's key to me. So please reach out, say hello, and like I said, I can help some folks out along the way if you need me or my help or services.
All right. Well, we just want to thank you, and we pray that you have an outstanding holiday, and we probably need to get together again soon. This
Absolutely.
is Dr. Ted Watkins. The program is To Your Health. We want you also to have a happy and healthy holiday. See you again next week.
Salamata. Ital and a vegan, we're vegan. I eat from the earth and leave the animals to give birth. No deaders, no fur, no feathers. When I tell people I don't eat meat, fish or dairy, then look for me strangely. Then I realize I eat a very wide variety. Listen to Maccabee. Yo, how when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me no eat no fish, no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me yam. When me tell them say that I'm a vegan, man. How when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me no eat no fish, no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me yam. When me tell them say that I'm a vegan. When me no eat no meat, no fish, no cheese, no egg. Nothing with no foot, no eye, no wing, no head. Nothing with no lip, no ears, no tongue, no leg. Prefer fruit and vegetables instead. Me careful and me choose about what I'm eating. Me medicine, me food is me medicine. When me tell people that me no eat them, they think. They look at me and scratch them chin and start wondering. How when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me no eat no fish, no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me yam. When me tell them say that I'm a vegan. How when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me no eat no fish, no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. You want hear what me eat? Yo, I eat callaloo, ackee, sweet potato, yam, banana and tomato, cabbage, spinach, avocado, chocho, buttered bean and cocoa, courgette, millet, plantain, rice and peas and pumpkin, mango, dates and guava, chickpeas and cassava, Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, onion, fennel and cucumber, plum, pear and papaya, aubergine and saya, lime, lentils and quinoa, oatmeal bread and oatmeal flour, watercress and okra, tofu and sweet pepper, couscous and carrot, broccoli and coconut.
Thank you for listening to the Just Completed program. If you'd like to offer feedback on any of our programming, please email us at info@wpfw.org.
This is attorney Nikichi Taifa, and I am thrilled to host a new talk show entitled Human Rights and Justice. Join me every Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m., starting September, as I feature insightful commentary and stimulating guests discussing domestic and global themes encompassing political, economic, and social rights. Get up and stand up with me, Nikichi Taifa, Wednesdays, 5 p.m., for Human Rights and Justice.
be declared outranked on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
Introducing Brother Oz Collectors, the next generation in sound.
WPFW honors Brother Oz's legacy by offering a new program dedicated to building on the depth and breadth of his musical journey.
From Thelonious Monk to the music of the Maasai, our collective, Luke Stewart,
Herb Taylor, Black Ink,
Craig Hall,
continues the exploration of great black music and its extensions.
That's Brother Oz Collectors, Next Generation in Sound, Mondays, 8 until 10 on WPFW, building a better world, one broadcast at a time.
For WPFW in Washington and WBAI New York, I'm Chris Bangert-Drowns with some brief news headlines. The United States is reportedly seeking a greater military presence in the Philippines, according to both U.S. and Philippine officials. Vice President Kamala Harris visited the country today, reaffirming the U.S.'s commitment to defend the Philippines under a 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. The assurance comes a day after China's Coast Guard seized Chinese rocket debris discovered by Filipino Navy personnel in the South China Sea. China, the Philippines, and 4 neighboring governments are locked in territorial disputes in the maritime area. Vice President Harris told Filipino leader Ferdinand Marcos Jr. that, quote, an armed attack on the Philippines' armed forces, public vessels, or aircraft in the South China Sea would invoke U.S. mutual defense commitments, end quote. The Associated Press reports that Ukraine will investigate video footage circulating on Russian social media that purports to show Ukrainian forces killing surrendering Russian troops. One of the Russian men appeared to refuse to lay down his weapon and opened fire. Russian officials have described the footage as showing an execution and have demanded an international investigation. A Ukrainian official denied that claim and said Ukrainian authorities would investigate, while suggesting an international probe was also possible. The head of the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine said earlier this week that there are credible allegations of Ukrainian forces engaging in summary executions, torture, and ill treatment during the war. Atrocities by Russian troops have also been widely documented. A powerful earthquake killed more than 160 people in Indonesia's West Java province today, with rescuers searching for survivors trapped under the rubble amid a series of aftershocks, according to Reuters. A regional governor said 326 people were also wounded. A national disaster agency said over 2,200 homes had been damaged, with at least 5,300 people displaced, while the regional governor estimated the number of displaced at 13,000. Electricity was down, disrupting communications, authorities said, while landslides were blocking evacuations in some areas. In domestic news, a man suspected of killing 5 people at a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs is being held on murder and hate crime charges, the Associated Press reports. The charges are preliminary, and prosecutors have not yet filed them in court. The suspect, Anderson Lee Aldrich, opened fire in Club Q, wounding 25 people in addition to those killed, and was arrested minutes later. Officials commended quick action by a person at the bar who grabbed the suspect's gun and pinned him down. Quote, had that individual not intervened, this could have been exponentially more tragic, said Mayor John Suthers. On its Facebook page, the club called the shooting a, quote, hate attack. El Paso County District Attorney Michael Allen said earlier that investigators are still working to determine a motive, and said charges will likely include first-degree murder. and disgraced CEO Elizabeth Holmes was sentenced to over 11 years in prison on Friday on charges of defrauding investors in her Theranos blood testing company. The sentence was shorter than the 15-year penalty requested by federal prosecutors, but far stricter than just the 18 months of home confinement suggested by the defense team. Holmes, the mother of a 1-year-old son with another child on the way, faced a maximum 20 years in prison. Judge Edward Davila did not rule on a prosecutorial request to impose over